Hey guys, this is Tomac Black for Casual Photoshop, and today I wanted to talk about different Photoshop alternatives and some desktop ones and some web-based ones, and yeah. So I have Photoshop open here, obviously, and I have several others and some web-based ones. The first one I want to talk about is GIMP, which is well known as probably the best Photoshop alternative, and it's free. It's actually licensed under the GNU GPL license, and it's open source, and it was actually originally for Linux, so it runs on Windows, Linux, and it can run on a Mac under X11, I think. Anyway, so let's talk about GIMP. I actually have a GIMP tutorial, an introduction to GIMP, which you can view by clicking on the annotation somewhere on the screen. So anyway, so it has many of the tools that Photoshop has. You can see all of the expected filters, all of the all of the adjustment kind of stuff. It can actually open Photoshop documents, and it has issues with some very small things, but for the most part you can import and it works fine. It can export to let's say go file new, can draw and stuff. Got some really cool brushes built in. You can make your own brushes, some ridiculous brushes as well. Gradients, all that kind of stuff. It can export to a bunch of different extensions. Some I've never heard of. It has its own .xcf extension, and then it has this huge list of different ones. And they all, whenever you save, give you options about it. And obviously, like I said, you can save to .psd with layers and all that kind of stuff. All this stuff. JPEG, there's some weird things like HTML table, which is kind of weird, and some other stuff. You can save to an animated GIF. Very, very cool. Like I said, it's free, open source. It can run on just about any computer. I had a computer running Linux, which obviously is Linux. It's actually Ubuntu, I think 9.04, and that it wasn't very powerful, even with Linux on it. Like, it would lag just moving a mouse on XP, which was its original operating system. It's very old. And then I had GIMP on it, and it was fine for just about anything. Very, very large filters it had issues with. GIMP has some odd filters and other things. There are also lots and lots and lots of plugins and other filters that people have built. Because the community is so huge, and it's a big community of nerds, which is great. So anyway, that is one great alternative to Photoshop. By the way, I just wanted to mention, in general, you can use this as an alternative to almost everything in Photoshop. There are some issues that it has with text, and its gradient editor is really not so great, but otherwise it is basically as good as Photoshop, and I actually used it myself, only GIMP, for almost a year. So anyway, that's GIMP. Next one I'm going to talk about is Paint.net. This one is also free. This one is Windows only, which is not so good, but still. This is much simpler. It does have some of the filters that you'd expect, and some of the, and actually most of the adjustments that you'd expect, and all the layer kind of stuff. It's just not as complicated. This one is especially useful for education, or if you're working with little kids, especially because the simpler tools are actually very similar to that of MS Paint, in that you have the regular brush, and even things that are very similar but are better, like curves and whatnot. And then the great thing about this is that it's very simple to use the very, very simple things, but then if they want to go into much more complicated stuff, like doing odd things with layers and adjustment masks and whatnot. They can, which is really, really great. It works with layers, like I said, all that kind of stuff. A decent color editor, and I think that there are also plugins for other color editors and stuff like this. Lots of different things. There are, like I said, plugins. What else? It can export to a very limited list. It has its own proprietary format .png. It can also export to these, which are expected. I've heard that there's a plugin that can allow it to do animation, and it works similarly to animation in Photoshop, though I have yet to try that. Lots of different tools. So yeah. It's also actually one thing that's very cool, and that my friend uses it for, is for pixel art. It's very cool for example, I have a brush and I'll turn the pixeling on, and then I have a grid. Oh, sorry. I think I have a selection. Yeah, and then this is very, very good for doing pixel art. Anyway, so that is paint.net. On to the next one. The next one is Aviary. Aviary is actually a big editing suite. They have a vector editor, a music editor, a video editor, I think, or maybe that's in beta. And their first one, I believe, was Phoenix, which is this one, and you can start it up. It's all in Flash, which is disappointing, but it works fine, and it also means that it'll work on just about any operating system. I can change the size, all that kind of stuff. It can also import from any of its tools. They also have some very cool tools, like a color picker thing that has like different things about learning how to use color and stuff. It can be laggy sometimes, especially because it's Flash, but it works pretty well. You can draw, do what you'd expect, filters, blurs and stuff, which doesn't always work so well. Paint bucket, all that kind of stuff. The color picker you'd expect from this sort of thing. Okay. It supports layers, and I'm pretty sure that they also have blend mode, which is very cool. This one is also a lot simpler and is Flash-based, like I said. So this can be a better option for certain people, but wouldn't necessarily recommend it. The only time that this is usually better is if you are not going to be able to install something, but then I'd suggest getting a flash drive or something and installing it on a flash drive, and then just plugging that into the computer that you're using. Let's say you're at school, and they have that sort of thing blocked, and then running it from there. So anyway, that is Aviary. Last one I want to talk about, which is very well known, but is really not so great, but I still really do want to talk about it, is Photoshop.com. You have to make an account, obviously. I'm logged in. And they have several different, it's all web-based, by the way, several different online tools. They have lots of different uploaders and some slideshow stuff, and but today I'm going to talk about the editor. So I'm going to upload a photo. It's all Flash. Upload. Let's say this background that I made. Cool. Go done. Oh, wait, sorry. I think I messed up there. Because the editor is right in there. Save this, open it up. One of the things that's really disappointing is that it actually, even PSDs, it'll have to merge all the files, which is weird. But this is about all it has. You can zoom in stuff, drag around, can do some touch-up stuff, which is really kind of just lame. Can mess with the saturation, which is just sort of silly. Red eye, that kind of stuff. Some really, really basic. Wow, God. Some really, really basic photo editing things that really most editors that are built into operating systems have anyway. Cancel, sorry. Then some adjustments types of stuff. Then some adjustment type things. They have a distort tool, which is interesting, but mostly just silly. This one is commonly used, and is sometimes can be good. It's also Flash based, but is really just a bad choice. There are also some other Flash based and Java based image editors online. You just search like online image editor, but these are probably the best ones that you can do. Anyway, so those are some Photoshop alternatives. Thanks for watching. Bye.